All right. Welcome, everyone, to the simulation mechanical discussion for Build Your Simulation IQ. This is part of the simulation series. Today we have Marwan and myself. We're going to be discussing Error 1. For those of you that have used simulation mechanical quite a bit, this is a very common issue we run into. So let me make sure. Marwan, are you there? I cannot see the presentation.
Oh, okay. Let me do that here. How about now?
All right, I can see it. I hope everybody else out there can see it. If you can't, go ahead and feel free to ping us in the chat window on the webinar tool there on the side. And you can see here we're going to be talking about Error 1 and how to run simulation mechanical through the command prompt. As I mentioned, Marwan's here. Those are our pretty faces. We're both product support specialists for Autodesk. And next slide. And to get started, just to highlight a few things about what's going on behind the scenes here at Autodesk. I want to highlight we have a beta for Autodesk Simulation Mechanical 2017, and that's available to download and use. And I have posted a link inside this presentation that's going to be available for download. And then as Marwan gets talking about Error 1, I'll go ahead and post the link in the chat window. You guys can copy that link and have it available. It directs you to the forum page, which has some information about some of the new features that are available in the 2017 beta, and it'll take you to the sign-up page where you can request access and licensing and be able to download and use the software. So I invite everybody to do that and let us know how you feel about it. And then lastly, we have schedule a call, and this is a new functionality that we rolled out a few weeks ago, and it gives you the opportunity to visit our website, set up a time for us to return a call to you. So it's a great tool for you to allow us to contact you at a time that's convenient for you. So I'm posting have a link in the webinar presentation here, and then I'll post that in the chat window as well. So feel free to check that out next time you need support. All right, in today's agenda we'll be covering Error 1. I have a little image there. I'm sure many of you have bumped into this from time to time, and Marwan will discuss how we can work around this in simulation mechanical using the command prompt, or the DOS window as some of you may know it. So we'll be covering a lot of information about the basics for how to get started, some common commands, and how to execute the analysis. So it should be a great presentation, and if you have any questions along the way, feel free to post those in the chat. Well, we'll try to get back to you. You can also post questions, and we'll be answering those real time if we can during the webinar, and then we'll follow up afterwards if we need to.
All right, thank you, Dean. Like Dean mentioned, we're covering today Error 1 briefly, really, and most of the presentation is going to be about DOS here. Error 1. Many of you have seen that error pop up occasionally from time to time. It's really a generic error message, so it doesn't really well, the number 1 is generic, but it pretty much tells you what it's complaining about. They're all under Error 1, but it could be different things. This Error 1, actually, if you want to go back and check it, it will appear in the log file, which is ds.log for a linear analysis, or ds.alg for a nonlinear analysis, and so on. This error can refer to multiple and unrelated issues. For instance, it can indicate an invalid element type for a certain part. It can indicate a missing parameter in element definition for a certain part, or a missing parameter in material properties such as Poisson's ratio. for a certain part. And for a nonlinear or an MES analysis, it could pop up during the analysis. It might have gone for a few steps or many steps, and then it could say, cannot delete file, error 1, and the analysis dies. The first three here in this bullet, the invalid element type, the missing parameter, and the missing material properties, those will pop up very early on after you hit perform analysis, and the analysis naturally will not go. The last one here in an MES analysis, that can pop up later on as the analysis is going and really stop at that point and not go any further. Repeatability issues. That means that those invalid element types and missing parameters and so on, if you try to run the model again, it will not happen. So the fact that it complains about something missing doesn't mean that it's missing. Most of the time it is not missing. You have everything defined, and all you gotta do is go back and run the analysis again, and you'll see that it won't happen again. The last one in an MES analysis, that tends to be a bit more annoying in that it could happen again, and there's no prediction exactly when it will happen. And in that case, the best thing to do, especially if you have a big analysis that might run for hours, is to actually run it from the command prompt. The command prompt or DOS window. Some of you have worked with it in the past. Some of you have not worked with it or have heard of it and don't want to have to do anything with it. You know, the first thing that pops to mind when you say command prompt or DOS really is that old PC there on your right, the old IBM PC, and that DOS screen, which is, of course, all you had to work with before Windows. Everything was in the DOS, and it really was in the DOS quote-unquote window. All there was DOS. It wasn't in a window. Your screen was DOS. And you issued commands to run programs. There was no registry. Things in a way were simpler, but not nearly as powerful as they are now. DOS is still there in the background, less and less as Windows evolves, but it is still there, and you can bring it up and work with it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So DOS, of course, stands for Disk Operating System, which was your OS back in the day. And you can just really stick a floppy in the computer and run DOS. Or, what's going on here? All right. So let's see, next slide. When would you want to use or bring up a DOS window? Some instances is when Simulation Job Manager is causing an issue, and that error 1, especially in an MES analysis, is caused by the Simulation Job Manager, and sometimes the Simulation Job Manager just doesn't allow you to run the analysis. You click on Analyze, it says Analysis failed, and that's it, and you can't go any further. We have articles that tell you how to deal with that, but sometimes you just want to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to run that analysis from a DOS window and get my results in a minute. Another reason why you would want to run the analysis in a DOS window is if your available RAM, the available RAM resources. What does that mean? That means if the analysis, if the model is big and you have limited RAM, if you run the analysis from DOS, that means you can close the interface. You can close FEMPRO, which might be taking quite a bit of memory. So you would free up a lot of memory for the analysis itself without, using that resource to just have the model up and on your screen. So what you would do in that case, you would check the model, and then you would close the interface, and you would bring up the DOS window and run the model, the analysis from DOS. You're not doing any pre-processing or post-processing in the DOS window. You're merely launching the analysis. The last third one, multiple version advantages. What does that mean? If you have multiple versions of the software, for instance, I have 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and perhaps 2017 beta. If you can have them all installed on the machine at the same time, but you can only run one version at a time. So what you typically do maybe is you right click on the shortcut, you say run as administrator, and when that does, it runs regall.bat in the background, it registers that version, and then it launches it. So let's say you do that, you switch to a certain version and you run it, and then you close it, and next time you want to open that same version and you're not sure which was the last version that you were in, or you don't want to fish for the shortcut for the correct version. If you do it from a DOS window, you run the regall from DOS window, and then all you do is type elk frame to launch the analysis. It makes things easier for you, and by having the DOS window up, you know which version you are in because you typically go to that folder. And I'll show you how to do that. The last one here is avoid checking the models step. Let's say you have a big model again, and checking the model before the analysis takes a while. And not to say that you have to check the model before performing analysis, but that's a step that always happens when you click Analyze. The model will check, and let's say you already checked the model, and now you're just ready to run the analysis. You don't want to go through that step again. Running from a DOS window will skip that step. In fact, to run analysis in a DOS window, you would have had to check the model from the interface before doing that. And we actually have an article on how to run from DOS that lists all these steps. How to open a command prompt or DOS window in Windows. If you have Windows XP or 7, you go to All Programs, Accessories, Command Prompt, and that's where you will find it. For Windows 8 and Windows 10, it's under All Apps, Windows System, Command Prompt. And you can also type CMD in the search or run window of Windows 7. So let's take a look on how we do that. So here we have Windows 7. If you go here, All Programs, actually have a shortcut for it here. You can do that. But it's sitting here under All Programs, Accessories, Command Prompt. If you want to switch between versions and run regall, you actually have to run it as administrator. So you right click and go to run as administrator. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to do that. And actually, if you do that, you'll get this little thing here, and it says administrator command prompt. Typically, it's black. I changed the colors here to blue, and it comes up in the Windows System 32 folder. That's the default folder. So that's how you bring up a command prompt. And let's take a look here at some of the most commonly used DOS commands. X : goes to the X drive. So right now I'm in the C drive. If I want to go to my D drive, I just type D : and hit enter, and I'm in the D drive. If I click C : I go back to where I was in the C drive. CD / will take you to the root directory, C. If I go to if I want to change directories, I type CD, let's say CD / program files, Autodesk, and I'm in the C program files, Autodesk. CD ... takes you back one folder. CD space Autodesk takes me here. CD space, let's see, simulation 2016 takes me here. And if I want to run regall, let's say just type regall, and it does that, and I can start using that version, regall. And if I want to launch the program, I can type elk frame, and this will launch the program. Control C in the command prompt window will stop any program that is running. Let's say you're in the middle of a MES analysis and you want to kill it, you can do Control C and it will kill it. CLS will clear the screen here. If I type CLS, it just clears my DOS screen. Okay, here, hit cancel. I'll exit this one. How would I copy something from the command prompt? I right click, I go to edit, mark, and just use my mouse to highlight. And if I hit enter, that copies it to the clipboard. I'm ready to right click and paste it. So right click pastes right away here in the DOS window. You don't have to select something to paste. Right click, or I'm sorry, yes, right click. Sometimes you don't have to go to edit mark. Sometimes you can just highlight right away. And again, if you hit enter, that copies it, left click, pastes.
And Marwan, if you could show why you need to right click, use those menu parameters. If you do a control V to paste, it doesn't actually paste inside the DOS environment. So
That's, yeah, control is the caret and V is V, so it doesn't do that. So it's right click will paste. Some useful shortcuts is up arrow will cycle through the previously issued commands, and down arrow, of course, will just cycle down. Up and down will basically cycle. The tab key is a very useful shortcut. Let's say I'm here in C program files and I want to type simulation 2016. If I type CD space just the first couple of letters, let's say SI, and hit the tab, it will, and if I keep hitting tab, it will cycle between all the subfolders that start with SI. And once I get to the one I want, I hit enter. Here I'm in the beta folder, simulation 2017. So again, you type whatever you want, space, then tab. And now it's cycling through all the, I don't even have to type anything here. If I just type CD space and don't specify the beginning of the subfolder name, it'll start cycling between all the subfolders. So now I'm going to hit tab on my keyboard, and it's going to go through all the subfolders under the simulation 2017 folder or directory.
and that's a really useful tip, Marwan, for when, if you go, when you open up the DOS window, you hit your CD / to go to the root directory, and say you want to go to this full path, you can type P, hit tab, and start going through, and you can actually easily input the whole path with just a few key entries. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's especially useful. I'll show you when you want to run a model. If you have a long model name with numbers and letters that you don't remember them all, it is really useful. So if I go to my D here, CD webinar, and I type CD tab, I can keep cycling here, but we'll type CD tab 2. So here's our today's webinar, right? So I don't have to type the whole thing, which I might not even know what it exactly is. Another useful shortcut actually is, and Dean showed me that here, if I navigate to the folder that I want to be in, let's say here, and click here, and what was that, Dean? Shift, right click.
You just type.
Or
you can do two things here. First one, you can just type CMD inside the address bar.
And hit enter. And that actually opened the new window, DOS window, right in that folder. That is very useful.
And then the second method, if you go down to where the files are listed, you can hit Shift and right-click, just on the white space. And there's a command there, open command window here. That's not normally available when you just right-click, but it will open up a command prompt at the same path. So kind of two ways to do the same thing.
So that's Shift, right-click, and open command. So this is a very useful shortcut as well, because it's easier to navigate here than it is in the DOS window. So let's take a look, and we have a model here. I'm going to go back to simulation mechanical, and we just finished setting up this guy, or it doesn't matter. So I got a couple of design scenarios. It's a very simple. So this is a linear static stress model. I'm going to go ahead. So I set it up with a certain material, and let's go ahead and apply a load. Let's say select this surface, or this surface really, add surface force of, let's say, 150 pounds normal. So now I go and check the model. It's solid meshing it. It's checked. Not yet. And here it is. So to run that model from a DOS window, I'm going to go here. Here's my folder. I'm going to type cd space C for clamp, or it's actually under the models model, cd space tab ds data, cd space 1 to go to the specific design scenario folder. So to run that model in DOS, I go to where that designs to the specific design scenario folder. So it's on my D drive in the webinar folder, today's webinar, model name.dsdata, and 1. So you can see it's a pretty involved path, and using the tab key really helps you get there very fast. Once I'm here, what I can do is type the full name to where the processor is. So that's C : program files. SSAP 0 ds minus run. Okay, so that's the path to my simulation mechanical. SSAP0 is the linear static stress processor. DS is the model name. It's all DS. It knows which one because you're in the correct scenario folder, and minus run tells it to run. No, actually, I should have put the SSAP0 inside here. Okay, so see, program files, Autodesk, simulation 2016, SSAP0, DS minus run, and here we go. You don't have to remember that. There is an article on how to do that, and all these commands are listed there, as well as the different processors for the different analysis types. So right now it is running the simulation, and it's done. So if I go back to my interface here, and I close the results environment, and I click on it again, here we are. The analysis is done. How do we run an MES analysis? The second design scenario is an MES. Maybe I applied the load to the wrong surface. I'm going to select this surface. Actually, right-click, add surface prescribed displacement. Let's say 0.5 inches in the X direction. Here we go. And I'm going to check the model. Okay, it's checked. Go back to my DOS window. In this case, I don't have to retype everything. All I'm going to do is hit the CD ... to go one folder up, and then CD space 2 to to go to the number 2 design scenario. Then I'm going to use my up arrow to cycle through the previously used commands. And by the way, in a DOS window, you have to use quotes here, quotations. And the reason why I'm using quotations is because there are spaces in the folder names. Back in the old days, you were only allowed 8 characters for a folder name, and you're not allowed any spaces, but that constraint has long been gone. But you still have to put it in quotations so that it doesn't stop at the first space it sees. If I don't put the quotations, it's going to truncate it at the first space in the path name. And in this case, all I got to do is change SSAP0 to APAC4 here. For an MES analysis, again, same thing, DS space minus run. And hit enter. Now, what will scroll up in this window is the same thing as what will scroll up here in the output window in the interface, except that it's going to be one or the other. Since we are running this from DOS, you're not going to see that scroll up here in the window. And the other thing, it's not going to save the ALG file. It's all going to be inside of the DOS window, unless someone can find a way to capture what you see here to be also outputted to a text file at the same time. Because what you can do also in a DOS window is you can redirect the output instead of being to the screen to go directly to a file. If you don't care to see this log file, and I guess you can open it as it's going. And typically you want to see it, you want to be looking at it and just to check how the analysis is going. But if you don't care to do that, you can put a greater than sign and redirect it to a file. And you can actually try that. So I'm going to do Control-C to kill this. And
so how you were running it is probably what we would refer to as an interactive mode. And then I think what you're doing here would be to run it as almost like a silent mode.
Yeah. So if I redirect that to log file, you can call it anything. Log file.log. Actually, I've never done that, so let's take a look. This. Okay, here it is. Here's the log file. So that's a good way. So right now it only has this much in it. I can close it and open it again. I should see more in it. Here we go. So that's actually a very good way. If you do want to have a log file for whatever reason, which I can think of some, it's nice to have the log file. You can just redirect the output from the, well, we call it screen now. What did they used to call it, Dean, back in the day? It's the console. Yeah. So the console to a file, you just do greater than, and it outputs it to the file of whatever name you specify here. And you can sporadically check on it to see what's going on. So that might be a good way to go. This way you can actually look at it, not in real time, but as often as you check on it, and also have it.
And we understand everyone is not familiar with running from the DOS window. This isn't very commonly used in today's computer environment, so we just thought that's the purpose of this webinar. So we'll be posting a recording. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly go back and review this webinar. And then we also have a few articles on how to do this. So if you're looking for a text document, we have those available as well.
Yeah, I mean, ideally in a perfect Windows world, you never have to look and see a DOS window. Sometimes it's just convenient to work with it, and sometimes, you have to work with it just to overcome certain problems. What else? Let's see what we have in the presentation. Do you have any questions, Dean?
We had one from Elaine, and he was asking about having the error one just be more descriptive, and that is something that we've looked at in the past, and I believe it was for 2015, 2016, I can't remember which version, but we did try to differentiate a few of the processes, well, our developers did, and so they provided some additional output. It isn't the most useful, and there is room to grow there, so it's something we're continuing to work on. So definitely appreciate that question, and it's something that, having a more descriptive error one is really great, making it, a little less generic, if you will.
Yeah, especially for the MES, it just doesn't tell you much. It says file cannot be deleted. It doesn't even tell you which file it is that it can't delete.
And someone else asks, Shei, does running from the DOS window fix the MES problem when a file cannot be deleted? And I'll let Marwan speak to it, but that's kind of the main objective here that we're accomplishing by running from the DOS.
I would say yes, almost every time it takes care of that problem. Yeah. And as I mentioned before, or I alluded to before, you don't have to have the interface open to run the model. So after checking the model, so I can exit simulation here, save or not save, doesn't matter. And I can again run the model. I just hit up arrow here, and let's output to the screen here in this case. Okay, so why is it always that we're using ds here, minus run, right? Because the file is always called ds. If you go here, all these files are ds, right? And each of those design scenario folders, it's all ds. That's why we're always referring to the ds file. It's not hard-coded in it. In fact, in the day before design scenarios, that was the model name here that you would type in. Now, of course, this is easier. All you got to do is type ds. And they're conveniently located next to each other, at least in the English keyboard.
Well, we also have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can I change any simulation parameters from the DOS window, i.e. changing the input force or material properties and rerun? You want to field that one?
Okay. No, that's... yeah, the general answer is yes. But it depends what it is that you want to change. And the reason why is because there are certain parameters that are saved in the FEM file, and there are certain parameters that are saved outside of the FEM file. So for those that are saved, the FEM file is a bit hairy. You know, we had a utility, I don't know if it's updated or it could probably still be up to date. It's called FEM View, which allows you to open the FEM file and look in it and make any changes and save it, outside of the interface, which is ALK frame. So that becomes a little bit more tricky to modify things or loads that are in the FEM files. If you want to modify, let's say, a material property, that's going to be in the FEM file, right? If you want to modify something, or let's say the gravitational force, it's going to be in the FEM file, I think. If you want to modify something like like a nodal force, that is not in the FEM file. A nodal force would be, let me show you, that would be in the .mod folder. So it's easier to get to it from here. If we go um, let's say to design scenario 1, which is our linear stress. It doesn't matter, they're all the same. If you go to the ds.mod folder, you're going to see all these files. Actually, that was going to be a possible topic for a different webinar, but since you mentioned it, we'll talk about it here. So something like a nodal force would be in the node cond table here. You can open that using, what is it, Dean, that opens those DBF files, not Excel, Access, I think?
Yes, Access.
Yeah. Or if you want to convert those to a text file, which is a CSV file, you can also do that here. So let's open the interface here. And actually, you can start that utility from DOS as well. The where is it? If we go C, program files, since we're on the topic, or simulation. I hate how the splash screen doesn't allow you to see anything. Simulation 20. Okay, fine. We'll open that. In the meantime,
Okay. And he clarified, he asked the question to see if he can use a process integration software to change input parameters and run simulations automatically. So sounds like he's looking to do some kind of automation.
Okay, but we're not going to go too deep into that. There's under tools, I believe, database translation, model to translate. We go here to the model to translate. So we're going to go the webinar, this webinar model, DS data number 1. So you select the ASD file. So that's our linear stress analysis. And you want to translate from the DBF to text file and translate. This is a small model. It happens very quickly. Now if I go here, you see that I got a bunch of CSV files, and this would be node cond is 0. I don't have any forces. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go here and maybe apply a nodal force. And all I gotta do is check the model. I really don't need to run it. Sure. Database translation. Again, we'll go here. It remembers the path. And text files translate. Okay. If you go back here, node cond. Come on. Can't be 0. Well, I'm going to have to look into that. But that would be in here, you would, so the general procedure would be to open that CSV file, modify the load that you want to modify, in this case, the nodal force, and then what you would do is you would use this database translation utility to go back from a text file to the DBF, and then you would run the model from a DOS command. You don't want to check the model again, because if you check the model, whatever is specified in the FE editor will be what it will use. Unless you go in and you do the the FEM file. If you change the FEM file, then that will incorporate it right in the FEM file. So I hope I was able to at least partially answer the question.
Yeah, and this is a great question. So we may actually add this to the list of potential webinar targets for the future. So I think there's a bunch of stuff we can really uncover here. Probably more than what we have time available here today. And so we can get back. We're getting a lot of questions in here, Marwan.
Yeah, I
People
want
are
to talk
very
about the.
interested.
Yeah, let me just mention one thing before I forget, which is the path. Um, if you type path in the DOS window, it will give you the path. And if you recall, when we ran the analysis, we had to type the entire path up here. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. No, actually, you can change the proportions of the DOS window and so on from the properties. You can change the color, the layout, and so on. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, by the way. So the path is here, C program files, Autodesk Simulation 2016, which is not in my path, is it? So let's hit escape, let's type CLS, let's type path, and where's my path? Okay, path. Okay, so the path is equal to C program files, and so on. If we look through this, simulation mechanical is not in the path. So if I add that to the path, if I type path equals to %path, meaning the existing path, and I append to it, so I put a semicolon here, and C program files, Autodesk Simulation 2016, and that path again just to verify that, and here it is, it's in my path, right? So right now, if I type just that, APAC 4, not the whole thing, it will run. So if you are asking, well, why don't you do that? Well, if I had only one version of simulation mechanical, then yes, I would do that and save myself from typing the entire path. But if I had different versions, I want to be specific. I wanted that to go exactly to the version that I'm using. And that's why I would include the entire path in my command and not put it in my path. I would eliminate any doubt there. But if you only have one version of the software on your machine, yeah, definitely go ahead and include that in your path. This way you don't have to type it every time.
Yeah, that's a great time saver there, especially for the length of the path that we have.
Yeah.
Well, that's going. Mind if we jump into some more questions?
Sure, yeah, please.
All right. We got, just go through here. Can you restart a model once you have stopped it in the DOS window?
If you stop the analysis, no, you have to start it from the beginning.
Okay. Next question. If you want to submit it to a queue, would you write a script or can you submit it all at once? So I think, if you had two, design scenario 1 and design scenario 2, is there a way to specify that through the DOS?
There was a scheduling thing that was actually included in the documentation, how to schedule analyses before we had the simulation job manager. So that's, which basically would be writing a batch file. So that's just writing schedule in the help. And let's see, method A, method B using Windows. We read it. This is multiple. Okay. Okay. Well, that's inside of the. Let's see if the other method is listed. Okay, sequential analysis batch file method. Yeah, it's here. You can refer to. Except that I'm not sure if the algo.exe is still valid. Um, so I wouldn't use algor.exe. Algor.exe would just refer to the, if you look at this blue highlight here, it would refer to the FEM file, and you will tell it which design scenarios you want to run, and it will do that. I'm not sure that algor.exe is a good way of doing it anymore. I can test. So yeah, you can do it, but instead of typing algor.exe, you would specifically call out which processor, let's say SSAP0 for a linear stress, SSAP1 for a modal analysis, and so on. So yes, but if you need further information, we can do that on the site.
Great. Let me see what else we have here. Covered the queue. Looks like someone, Scott, had a comment. There are helpful utilities available to follow a log file dynamically, i.e. follow tail, so you wouldn't have to keep opening the file to check the progress. He suggests Log Expert as one of those utilities, so that's great feedback there. Is that something you've used in the past, Marwan, or do you have a preference for one?
No, I have not used that in the past. No, I did a cursory search a little while ago if you can just readily do that, but no, you couldn't, and that's why you would need a utility like that. Yeah.
All right. And someone asks, is FEM View still available publicly? I heard you mention that.
FEM. Is it available, or it was a question?
Yeah, they're asking if it's still available. So I guess in the installed files.
No, it was never part of the install, actually. It was something that was developed kind of un-QA'd. So yeah, if someone wants it, you can give it to them, but it's not QA'd, so use accordingly.
I think we may have an article where that's available publicly. You can search for that, but let me see if we can find that while we're looking through some of these other questions. Looks like Dave has some questions about having to uninstall Service Pack 2 to get SimMech to run. We can probably follow up with you more directly, Dave, regarding that, help you get up and running. So I will make sure we capture your email. We'll send you an email after. Just doing a quick check here. I think we got to all the questions for the most part. I'm trying to fill in the responses here. If anybody else has anything else. We'll just hang on here for a couple minutes. See.
Yeah, the way I use the DOS window too is for a great extent to keep track which version I'm in. So I would, start it and go to C, or at least if I'm going to run a model also from the DOS window, I would have maybe two DOS windows open, one that is in the C program file simulation and whatever simulation version I'm in. So I can, the first time, type reg all, hit enter, but of course that have to be as administrator, and subsequently I'll just type alg frame to launch the program. Of course I don't want to do that here because this is 2017, so if I go cd cd sim tab, here I go, alg frame will bring it up. This way I don't have to go, if I have multiple windows open and I want to minimize everything and look for the shortcut on the desktop or go through the start menu, For me, it's just easier to type elk frame and bring it up.
And I'm not seeing the FEM View tools posted publicly on the internet, so if that's something you're looking for, Shay, feel free to just get in touch with us and we can send that out to you or anyone else. And again, it's something we kind of developed externally, and it isn't QA'd, so it would be kind of a use at your own risk type software.
Mm-hmm. This article is available to the public. Let's see. There's a link.
Yeah, I'll copy that. I just posted that in the chat window for everybody, so you can go ahead and click on that and open it up. That'll take you to the article on how to launch.
Yeah. I think it's trying to go there now. And that's the article. Just wanted to scroll down here. This shows you the different processors to call out for the different analysis types.
All right, it looks like we've calmed down quite a bit, so we'll give one more minute and we'll start to wrap up.
We do encourage you, if there's a certain topic you want us to talk about, please let your voices be heard. We'll be happy to oblige.
I know I recognize some familiar names in the webinar audience, so while we're chatting with you guys, feel free to say, hey, I'd like to hear more about specific topic, and we'll be glad to put it in our planning.
Yeah, this topic, the newer users don't really care or have worked with DOS. Users have been using the PC for since the 80s and early 90s. Definitely familiar with DOS before the Windows era. Of course, we're all happy that we have Windows, but sometimes you need to go in there and do something kind of in the back.
All right, well, nothing new is coming in. I think we've satisfied everybody's thirst for today, and we invite you to check the forums for the schedule of the upcoming webinars that we have. We also have these for the CFD composites, mold flow products as well, so browse around and see what you're interested in and sign up, and we will look forward to chatting with you next time.
All right. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everyone.